Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to the Now and Then Wrestling Podcast. I'm Ben Jordan, along with Michael Vee and Joe Tippett, and we are going to talk pretty much all about the now of professional wrestling on this week's episode. WrestleMania has come and gone, and we are going to dive in fully. Our retro review, we're going to pause on that for a week. Basically, we're just going to review a bunch of the different shows that we watched over the weekend, including, of course, the big one, WrestleMania. And then I got a chance to watch some of the indie stuff that happened. I don't know if you guys did, but we'll get into that as well. And then, Michael, I assume you'll have some sort of question for us at the end. Hopefully it leads to more Missy's Manor, like we had last week. But wherever you may go.
What a find.
It was, dude. Like, kudos for that. Like, I didn't see that coming, and it was amazing. Even the one that the Adrian Adonis one that was posted on the Facebook page. Incredible.
They're all horrid. And I love Missy Hyatt, but they're all horrid.
They're all horrid, but in the best way possible.
Oh yeah, and train wreck TV.
Indeed. So WrestleMania now, these days means not just WrestleMania, but for the past few years now, the indie companies, mostly, I think Ring of Honor really started this trend, if I'm not mistaken, of kind of piggybacking WrestleMania and running the same town that WrestleMania is running, like, earlier in that week, that Thursday or Friday before WrestleMania. Well, now GCW has what they call the Collective, and they had 12 shows in 48 hours. I mean, I'm not kidding when I say that. Like, legitimately 12 shows in like a 48-hour span. So it has turned into something huge at this point. I couldn't possibly have watched all of the Collective. I picked and chose a little bit. But I don't know what you guys got a chance to watch. I know the Bloodsport show was something that all three of us were very interested in. And it was basically ROH and IWA did it for WrestleMania 22. So there you go. And that was in Chicago.
Yeah. I was at one of those ROH shows. That was the one where it was the first
Dragon Gate?
Dragon Gate, yeah. Which was
that was
insane.
a hell of a show.
Insane.
I believe that IWA show, if I'm not mistaken, and Chad can correct us, I'm sure he'll know, but I believe that IWA is Necro Butcher Low Key was the
at Midlow.
Yeah, at Midlow. And when in the worst booking decision of Ian Ross's career happens that night.
Saying something.
He don't, yeah, right? Which is saying something. But Necro Butcher was without question the hottest act in independent wrestling at that point. He's coming off the Samoa Joe match in Philadelphia. He's crossed over from death matches and started doing quote unquote strong style and regular matches, and is really getting over with the IWA crowd. And they announce him versus Low Key, which at that time, Low Key is also very hot, known to be very stiff. Everyone's like, oh my God, that's going to be an amazing match. Well, get there to the match, and Low Key is not really interested in doing business with Necro Butcher. In fact, he's not really interested in doing a whole lot of anything with Necro Butcher. And Necro, the way that he is kind of an easygoing guy, or at least back then, he was pretty easygoing. So he just kind of went with the flow and was like, whatever. And Low Key wins. And the crowd was deflated by it because they wanted Necro to win. And Ian he didn't stand up for himself, and he let Low Key kind of book the match and book the finish. And it was not good. I digress.
Low Key, not level-headed. Oh, like come on, man.
No, it's not like that. Everything that he's done after that has also he's not. He might be like, we talk about some of the best politickers in the history of the business, the Hulk Hogans, the Jeff Jarrett's of the world, the guys that have gotten paid enormous sums of money for professional wrestling when they shouldn't have been paid as much money as they were paid, right? In some cases. He's the exact opposite.
He's the worst. He's on the, like, I got the least amount out of my ability fucking Mount Rushmore. Like, what the fuck?
Right? Like, he was signed by WWE and just couldn't fit in there.
No.
He just couldn't figure out a way to fit into that locker room. He can't fit into any locker room. He's a weird dude. If you've ever been around him, he's a weird fucker.
Yeah, he was, I was around him, and that was early on. So he wasn't, that was what? King of Indies 01. So I mean, that was before. I mean, that was like in his transformational blowing up phase, and he wasn't there yet. So I mean, the only thing, man, I'm not trying to blast the guy or anything, but the only thing I remember about Low Key, because I'll never forget this, because nobody ever had asked, but somebody had to go ask like people around the office if he spoke English because of how horrible his fucking emails were, like completely like not understandable at all. But yeah, I mean, he was okay. I mean, he wasn't as bad then, but I mean, I've heard shit from, you know, mutual friends of like of everything since. I mean, like everything you hear in the newsletters and things like that, that's like the tip of the iceberg.
Joe, you may remember this. Remember when Brian Zenner in an MCW?
Sure.
And I believe it was Donovan Morgan and Mike Modest. They did that whole parody of Low-Key where they had like a cutout of Low-Key and they were making fun of how charisma-less Low-Key was at that point. It was hilarious. But yeah, Low-Key is one of the weirdest dudes, and you're right. Like the Mount Rushmore of worst politickers, worst playing the game. You can't play it worse than Low-Key is played. He's terrible. No one wants to book him at this point because they know that he's not going to fucking play ball. He thinks it's real. Honestly.
Well, I don't. He's doing voiceover work, right? Has he done anything notable? I know he's done he was doing some voiceover work. If he made money there,
he's got a unique voice, so you know that's not a bad idea. But he's not getting paid for wrestling anymore. I know that.
No, he blew wrestling.
Yeah. Which is a shame because the Bloodsport show is a show that he probably, with the right mindset, could have been a star on. This is a style that I think would have played very well with the style that he had. And this was the first show of the entire weekend. It was like 3:00 in the afternoon on Thursday. It was like
yeah. He said we should review it. I was like, when is it? You're like 2 hours. I was like, wait, what the fuck?
Yeah, and I was surprised. Like for a 3:00 in the afternoon on Thursday, the crowd was really into everything. Yeah. There was a lot of people there. I thoroughly enjoyed the show. I was kind of telling you guys along the way, and I posted that review on the Facebook page as well. You know, personally, I loved the show. So I'm curious for you guys. And I'll start with you, Joe. Things that stuck out to you, matches that you liked above others, things of that nature.
Yeah, like you said, the Busick and Mox match was fantastic. Was awesome. I mean, and Busick, that's a guy who I'm glad he's back on the Indies because it fits his style better, and especially a show like that fits his style way better. He was very good in a lot of shows this weekend, and that was a good way to kick it off. But yeah, I dig that style. I dig that it should be. I think it should be once a year. I think they were getting too cute doing it like 2 or 3 times. Like, I mean, I get, you know, they were trying to do it through the pandemic, and it's a unique format, but if you did it all the time, it would lose its luster. I like it just being at WrestleMania. Like, just do it that weekend. You could build up some guys get released. I think most of the matches were really good. It was missing like more hybrid guys, like even if it was the short throwaway matches, like when they had Frank Mir or they had like other UFC guys that would want to like that, you know, Tom Lawler dipped their toes into like a more of a work shoot, like pro wrestling style. It was missing that a little bit. Maybe a few too many matches. I get what they were going. A few could have been just kind of that didn't need to be on the show, and you could have made it tighter. I always
one women's match was enough for me. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I think so too. I thought when the second one came out, I was like, oh, another one. Oh, okay.
And that one's the one that bothered me because Marina Shafir is clearly a superior mixed martial arts athlete, and this other girl looks like she couldn't hang for 40 seconds with Marina Shafir. Right. And then when they went like 10 minutes, I was like, this is ridiculous.
Too long.
Yeah. There's no way that girl should be hanging in for more than 30 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, it was good to see Thatcher back. It's, you know, it sucks didn't work out for him, but I like that guy, and I like him. I like watching him do stuff like this because that's what he likes doing anyway. So, you know, it fits more his personality and his style.
Yeah, and that's Thatcher and Kratos and even Hennigan and Simon Gotch come from your neck of the woods, Michael V. And so I'm curious your thoughts on some of those matches with guys that you're probably familiar with from their early days.
Yeah, I mean, Thatcher's kind of an interesting one to me because he was somebody who, I mean, when I was booking at Iron, he was still training. I don't even think he had started, but we did like some combined classes with them at our school just to kind of get everybody together. Vinny Massaro wanted to do it, and he was just one of those guys that was like, you know, he's going to be really good. I mean, like everybody knew that right away. Like you could tell. And he was a super just like, you know, yes, sir, no, sir, shake your hand type guy. So, I mean, like seeing him rooting for him is always fun. And he's so fucking good. And, you know, it's always good. It's always good to see my man Seth too. It's always good to see Simon. I love Seth, Simon Gotch, Simon Grimm. I love him to death. He's an asshole. He hates everybody. I don't know if he's still that way all the time. We'll connect every once in a while and just check in or whatever. But I mean, I love him as a guy. He's a fucking hardcore wrestling nerd, man, and I can appreciate it.
He's perfect. He's been on almost all of these Bloodsport shows, and I've enjoyed every match I've seen.
Yeah.
Bloodsport. He gets it. He gets what that style is supposed to be, and he was kind of handed a wild card with John Hennigan. Like, I think that was a surprise where everyone was like, wait a minute, fucking Johnny Impact, fucking Johnny Nitro, fucking Johnny whatever. He's gonna do this Bloodsport thing, and I thought that match, like his little capoeira style, was interesting and different. It brought something different to the show for a match, and it was surprisingly stiff. Those guys fucking laid it in on each other.
Yeah, for shows, I mean, Bloodsport always to me is that like, some of the things that hurt wrestling the most are actually like in certain cases are like a real advantage for Bloodsport, like style clashes where it can maybe turn into an ugly match on a regular show and get a little fucked up. Like that's what's good about Bloodsport. Like that's how it's supposed to, like that's how a fight is. It's not always going to be pretty or entertaining, like, you know, to a high level. It's just going to be somebody's going to fucking win because it's, you know, it's a fight and it's not always going to be, you know, aesthetically pleasing. So, I mean, I always like that aspect. And I agree with Joe. Like, your audience gets together once a year for this. This is your audience. It's not a few hundred people in this city or that city. It's like, it's a few hundred people all spread out amongst the country that get together on that one weekend, because there's people that'll go and appreciate it and get into the style, but not like this, not at the same level. Like, this is for them.
Well, then that brings up an interesting point, because it's been brought to my attention, and I haven't watched enough of them, but ICW No Holds Barred, they have kind of taken some elements of Bloodsport, combined it with more deathmatch wrestling, put it inside this chains, and that's all they do. They don't have a normal ring. Like, all of their matches, every show around the country is in the chain, the no holds barred style, like from the movie, style. So you're right, but Danny DeManto is drawing decent indie crowds, in the Northeast and in Chicago and in the Midwest, doing a similar style, though not exactly the same as Bloodsport. And so I wonder, have you guys seen any of that? And I'm curious of what you think of it.
I haven't seen it, and I'm not. I mean, it might be. I'm not knocking. I mean, I think what Joe and I are talking about, probably both on the same page, is that it's not that it can survive and sell tickets. I mean, it can other places. It's just when the atmosphere like adds to the show, like that is your group that gets together like once a year from all over the country. Right. That's the hardcore group that, like, those people that went to go see Bloodsport, that was the highlight of their fucking week. Like, going into it, they knew that, like, this is what I probably want to see the most. Like, it's not Mania, it's not, you know, ROH or any of that other shit. It's shit like this. So I mean,
guys could sit in the guard for a few seconds, and people are gonna go, "Oh fuck," you know what I mean? Like, not that they're staying there like it's a jiu-jitsu match, but they understand that the pacing is what it is for this style, and all the matches are pretty, unless it's like one of the bigger matches. I think all of them being around 10 minutes or less is probably a good thing, because that's probably what most matches are going, what most fights would end up being, you know, if this was quote unquote for real.
Yeah, I will say this, that this was the first show I had ever seen Slade, and I was instant fucking fan. I fucking love that guy. I believe, and I don't know if his story's true or if it's just a gimmick, but I believe that dude spent time in prison. And I bet he was a bad motherfucker in prison because he's small and he's got to be, and he portrays it perfectly. Like I love everything about him. And he had an awesome match on this show with that Alex Coughlin guy. That was probably my second or third favorite match on the whole show. Alex Coughlin I thought was really good too. Yeah. That guy's from the New Japan Dojo, and I can see he's gonna be a good one. And so Ninja Mac and I think Yoya, I think is how he says it. I was very impressed. That was the first time I'd ever seen Ninja Mac. That dude has an interesting offensive, and I saw him a couple times throughout the weekend. I could see like he's going to Pro Wrestling Noah. I was stunned by that. Like that gimmick is kind of backyardish, especially when you see him on a poster. He looks like a backyard guy. But when you see him in the ring and the way he moves is very unique. He's that new generation of high flyer that kind of uses some martial arts. Moving on, the other GCW show that I did spend quite a bit of time with was Joey Janela's Spring Break. This is another show where it has kind of become a staple of WrestleMania weekend, where something is big usually happens, or it's GCW's big show as well throughout the weekend. It's their main attraction, and I did not enjoy Spring Break nearly as much as I enjoyed Bloodsport. There is some interesting booking decisions and people that are being pushed that I don't understand why they're on my television at all. But there was some bright spots of it. The main event, I loved it because I'm a deathmatch guy, and I thought that was really well done. The Alley Catch and Mickey James match was so bad. I mean, and women's matches are, there's a high probability that an indie wrestling women's match is going to have some bad shit in it. But Alley Catch, I don't understand. Am I wrong here? Am I missing something? Like, why did I have to watch her? Like, I don't get it.
I've not seen very much of her because I've seen so many people that I trust give me negative feedback. So I'm like, hey, skip it. So I'm not gonna waste my time. Yeah. But yeah, no, I saw the second, most of the second night, and I saw I generally tune in or go out of my way to just kind of watch the clusterfuck just to see what wacky shit they do. And
I mean, was there any wacky shit? What was the wacky shit?
I mean, the Invisible Man, Bagwell was there. Here, there, like, guests, but mostly the GCW, whoever they're. I assume this is their normal crew that comes in there, and like, I don't know their storyline, so guys that I think were on most of their shows this weekend in there, apart from a few.
X-Pac. I don't know that we need a whole lot of X-Pac. This I don't know that this run. I don't know that he's got it in him. Like the crowd was trying to like cheer him along with the "You Still Got It," but watching it, I didn't feel like he still had it. He looked old. He moved old. He looked blown up. And don't get me wrong, I wanted to love it. I still love him. The nostalgia of it. Awesome. And the match was good with Janela. It was just that he even said it afterwards. I think he was telling the truth. I don't think it was he took that mic afterwards and was like, I am fucking hurting. And he looked like he was fucking hurt.
Doesn't he have hepatitis?
He's cured. That he got cleared. And that's why he got cleared. And he was on the bump, which was like WWE's like podcast like this. And he was on basically begging for another run. But I guarantee you, if the Bruce and Vince pop in that fucking format, they're not going to be like, oh, yeah, he may get like a Rumble spot.
That's it,
yeah. But outside of that, there is not going to be an NXT run with fucking X-Pac. No chance of that.
No.
An NXT run with X-Pac would be fun, though. Like if they, had him do a couple
we could go a little bit, but I don't think he can keep up.
I don't think he. Plus, it seems like for him to be effective, like you couldn't really do one big match because there isn't really. I mean, what one big X-Pac? I mean, I just don't know. I mean, like he would have to do like multiple. Yeah, he would have to have like an edge run of some kind, and I don't think that's in him.
No, I don't think so. You do want to see him in AJ Styles? I mean, on paper you go yes, but then execution.
He's not. No, he's not the 1, 2, 3 kid anymore
at all. Very far from it. Very far from it. And that's okay. Like he was entertaining for a long period of time and put his body on the line and lived a hard life for a long period of time. So go enjoy life, man. Like
I think with him though, there's a couple things. First of all, he loves it to a level that, I mean, even for in the business, I mean, you got to remember, like, I mean, he's told some of the stories, like when he was going over to Japan and working, and then he was going, as a fan to shows with Meltzer when they were going to like the Japanese women's shows where they were like 9 hours long, and they would literally lock you in the building and like literally not let you leave so that they would, on TV, the building would look full.
No shit.
Oh yeah. He's told those stories before. So, I mean, he was doing all that shit, while he's working. So, I mean, I think for him, and then, I don't want to speak ill of the dead here or anything like that, but I mean, China kind of fucked his name up too, if you, believe all accounts of things that happened. He didn't end like, for a guy that had a really good career and really loved the business, like I can totally see him being like, I need that final chapter to kind of, write myself off it. Yeah, because everybody comes back for that to a degree, but somebody that loves it like him, like I think that matters.
Sure. Yeah. No, you want him to be able to do it, but I think his body.
No.
Not meant.
No.
He's
I
not,
mean,
he's not capable.
Maybe it's something that, so I can't say. I mean, maybe it's, look, if you don't do it regularly for a while, and especially just doing it for the first time in a while, you're going to look a certain way. Maybe he could work some of it off, but yeah, I mean, it's tough, man. I mean, his body's been through a lot too.
He hasn't, there's something to be said about when you don't bump regularly, you don't have that like kind of callus built up. So it's going to hurt the first time you get back in there and go full steam.
Yeah,
and he's like, he doesn't get, like, he is such a paradox too, because he was at one time probably one of the stupidest pro wrestlers that ever existed, and then became like one of the smartest pro wrestlers that ever existed, because he was like crash boom to the fucking floor before just about anybody in the United States, and having all the padding of 115 pounds while he was doing it too. And then like as X-Pac, he's not doing really any of that shit anymore. And a lot of the guys from that era, I mean, they when they do interviews and stuff like that, they say he was the best worker in the business at that time. Like a lot of people say that about him, like not just the click guys and all that. And he got a lot out of very little. So it's very funny, like just how the contrast goes. Like he's it's pretty peculiar for sure.
Yeah, for sure. There is on that night one that I saw too. They had a multi-man match with a bunch of dudes that need a sandwich. There's a bunch of skinny white dudes, and they're like Blake Christian, and then there's this Nick Wayne kid. I guess he's the son of Buddy Wayne.
Buddy Wayne, yeah.
And
16.
Say again.
16 years old,
and that is astonishing. Like, he is really good. Like his body hasn't filled out yet, but like he moves really good. Like I was surprised and impressed, and you could see why. Like AEW already gave him a contract. They're like,
yeah,
you're 18. Come on, we already got a spot for you. So like, well, yeah, that dude's extremely talented.
His dad was training guys at the house. I mean, they've had a ring in their backyard probably since he was born. So yeah. I mean, he was,
very impressed. Like his timing is really good, and he's a flyer. And like, the way he moves around in the ring, the way he jumps up on the ropes and jumps off the ropes, he was impressive. He stuck out in that match. He won the match, and he was easily the most impressive guy. So there's a name that you may see on some indie cards.
Oh, you will, yeah.
Go out of your way to see, because that dude's he's got a lot of AJ Styles in him. There's a lot of early AJ Styles, where once that guy gets in the ring with dudes that can really teach him and take him to the next level, and he gets where he can, really put some pounds on, and his body starts to fill out, that dude's going to be a star. So definitely keep a lookout for him. I did watch also a little bit of Planet Death, which, if you're in deathmatch wrestling, is fun. It's light tubes and fucking all kinds of nonsense. Slade had a Taipei death match, which I fucking enjoyed the shit out of. Those are, like, I hadn't seen a Taipei death match in a long time. It had been years since IWA Mid-South.
I was gonna say it had to be then.
Had to be,
yeah. Then the other big show, non-WWE related, was Ring of Honor, the Super Card of Honor.
I thought you were gonna say the Impact Multiverse or whatever the fuck that shit was.
Multiverse of matches.
If you saw the Impact Multiverse, please let us know in the comments section, because that is not something I'll waste my time watching. But I just want to know that it happened
at all. And notice that nobody's talking about any match off that show. Like, almost every show, there's like, oh hey, there's like a buzz about one or two matches.
Something, yeah.
Nothing. I can't tell you what was on that show. Because I have no idea, and nothing obviously was that exciting or surprising, because nobody is buzzing about that show at all.
Well, how can they bring anybody back from the past? They're all WWE producers, every fucking one of them. So.
Every one of them, right? Yeah, like, all their biggest homegrown stars are in WWE at this point. So Ring of Honor, Super Card of Honor. This is the first Tony Khan booked and produced Ring of Honor show. And Joe, I thought you described it perfectly. Out with the old, in with the AEW. I didn't get a chance to watch it, so I'm going to lean on you guys to give us a little bit of a review, because I did not get a chance to watch it. I know you guys were really raving about the FTR Briscoes tag.
That was really good. Yeah. It felt like a higher produced AEW Dark kind of. I mean, with like, bigger matches, I guess, or they were made to feel bigger. I mean, the tag match was really good. The Wheeler Yuta and the guy's name is
Josh Woods.
Josh Woods, yeah, he's good. That was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
The main event was good. I mean, Jonathan Gresham is too short. As short as he is, I mean, he's great, but like, he'll never be taken. He's like I told you, Ben, he's like the Demetrius Johnson of wrestling, like in size and because no one's ever gonna like consider him one of the top guys just because he's smaller than everybody else.
Yeah,
he's 5'4". I mean, he's smooth as silk. He's really good. The match was good. He hit.
He
great
has
moves.
to overcome. He has to be so good at everything else to even get noticed, because you just look at him and you're like, nope, I don't believe that guy.
And you got to carefully protect him too, just with the booking, to not make it look as bad, and that limits you a little bit too. Cool. And honestly, that match was good, but I mean, the show peaked at the tag match should have been the main event. Like, it peaked. Sure. That's where it peaked.
It felt like it too. When the tag match happened, you're like, this should be the end. Like,
yes.
Like,
everything
that happened with the Young Bucks and stuff like that. Like, this should be the end. Like, all right, everybody, we're out of here.
And it's a shame, because I like Gresham and I really like Bandito. I think that guy's super, super, super fucking talented. Yep. He gets lost because I don't know, like, Ring of Honor has some sort of trance on him where he's like, oh, I'll just stay here, when clearly if he gets to AEW, that dude's gonna make Ray Phoenix look like a
because he's bigger. He's a bigger version. He's a bigger version of Phoenix.
Yeah, and doesn't hurt himself nearly as often as Ray Phoenix. So there's that, and then obviously the big news coming out of that show was that Samoa Joe returned to Ring of Honor, but basically it's signed to AEW, because I think as we speak right now, he's got a match on AEW Dynamite tonight with Max Caster. His AEW debut is tonight. So and that's part of the Owen Hart tournament deal. So Samoa, I guess we could talk about that. Samoa Joe in Ring of Honor, AEW. I mean, that seemed inevitable. We Michael, we talked about it when he was released, that this was exactly where we thought he would head, over a place like Impact. Thoughts? Where does this get you excited about potential matchups? I don't know. I'm not a Samoa Joe guy, so I'm the wrong guy.
I'm a Samoa Joe guy, but I mean, at this point, I mean, it's 2022 now. I mean, there's, I mean, come on. I mean, I don't know if I'm the right demo for this because I really like Samoa Joe, but at the same time, like, I recognize his limitations, and the ROH thing is just kind of dead to me. But the crowd, I mean, I feel like this was the place to get a good crowd reaction, and they did. But overall, it's like, I mean, you're adding Samoa Joe to Ring of Honor. Like, what does that really do for you as a Ring of Honor? Like, I mean, we talked about this yesterday. They had a rise in buys. So there was a rise in interest. And I think a lot of that probably came from what's Tony Khan going to do. And I'm just sitting here at the end, like, did he do enough? Like, did he do enough to make me think, okay, this is something I want to get on board with? Because I don't think that he did. Like, the tag match was really, really good, but this was not like I can't wait to see where they go thing from here. And I think part of that thing too is, man, I like Jay Lethal. I really do. He's really talented. All those things. Like, he's done a lot of things in his career that I like. But as a top guy of your promotion, yeah, no. And you want to get TV. And that's another thing, too. They're sitting there at the end, and it's like, okay, well, we got this promotion, and you're bringing back Samoa Joe, and you're saying that you're going to run, and you're the booker. And it's like, and, in the media scrum, like, anything you want to say about TV? And, well, no, we don't have anything yet. And it's like, this is what I was telling you. Like, I don't know if what they want to have happen is going to happen, because I don't know what the interest is in this thing. I don't know what they did to help it this week. Like, for me, they did very little with the show to make me think, okay, I can get on board with this. But I mean, yeah, overall, I mean, for a start, it was not a home run, Maybe like a broken bat single or something like that.
They were kind of in a rock and a hard place, though, because the show is booked before he bought it, and so he's like, "Well, I guess we got to run it." And I think he knew he had to do something, and that was all he could probably come up with on short notice. And,
what do you have? Other than like having Punk and Bryan Danielson come out after Samoa Joe, do some sort of like
you got to decide what you want. Are you going to be a nostalgia act and bring out all the old guys for Ring of Honor, or do you want to move it forward? And what does that mean? Are you going to take guys away from your main product to help this other brand that was dead, essentially? Like,
which is what essentially we're doing with Brian Cage, right? Like, Brian Cage, there's been long rumors of, is he going to be released? Is his contract going to be renewed? What's going on? Why isn't he on AEW television? And then he shows up with Tully Blanchard, who they had written off of AEW recently with FTR. Now he shows up in Ring of Honor, and he does this whole thing with two guys no one's ever heard of. I was like, I saw it, and I was like, who are those other guys? And then it's like two indie dudes that I've never heard of at all, and no one in the crowd surely hadn't either. So
I mean, apart from spreading your talent out, like, or guys you don't have anything for in AEW, sending them there temporarily as either a developmental or, I mean, we got nothing else for you, so go to Ring of Honor. But yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, like I said, they felt like they had this. It super felt like, okay, well, let's get out the guys who, at least we have the belts on guys who we know. I mean, I guess Minoru Suzuki to a degree was cool, but they have the belts on guys they know, and if they want to move forward with them, they can. And if they don't, they won't. And then it'll just be like, well, we'll just put the tape library up. But I assume they're going to do something at some point.
Sure.
See, even as it wasn't his idea to do the show, but once it's thrust in your lap, like, he really should have took this as an opportunity to wet the whistle a little bit, because I still think that he's overestimating like what ROH means in the landscape. Like, first of all, and I'm glad that Chad brought up the comment, because I'm seeing the fucking name looking right here, at the screen with me. But just like everybody gives that love to ROH, IWA Mid-South is on that same fucking level. And it just doesn't get mentioned because it's in Rotten and it's deathmatch shit involved with it. But they gave a lot of the same people a break.
Yeah.
And ROH gets way too much credit for that. But at the same time, it's real. Now, I'm not saying it's not real, but what the fuck does that mean as far as how popular you are? Like, yes, this was a good feeding system for everywhere else, but like, man, I had to laugh my ass off. 800 fucking pay-per-view buys they did for that New Japan shit. Is that what that article said? They had a fucking pay-per-view where they did 800 buys. Like, you have a promotion that sucks so bad that they had to fucking sell it or put it out of business. Like, that's like, you have to keep that in mind. So, I mean, I do think that they could have did a little bit better with just coming up with something to get me excited, because right now it just feels like, yeah, okay, this is going to be just Ring of Honor with, you know, a few AEW guys thrown in, and that's not enough, man.
Yeah,
that's not enough.
You're right. Though, but in the hierarchy, I mean, IWA Mid-South was a feeder to Ring of Honor. There's absolutely no question about it. Like, again, say what you will about Ian Rotten, the businessman, but Ian Rotten, the wrestling talent evaluator, is one of the best that maybe has ever done it. He has an eye for talent. He knows, and especially back then, he knew the guys that were going to be the stars. He knew Punk and Cabana were going to be stars. He knew Chris Hero was going to be a star. He knew that Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley were going to be stars. Like, he saw all those guys coming, Matt Sydal and Delirious, all of them. And when you got onto his shows, that got you on the tapes. And when the tapes got out and the DVDs got out through Smart Mark and you got over there, well, then you got Gabe's attention, or and the East Coast guys' attention, CZW.
What was the Ted Petty Ben? Was that 03? That was like the most stacked tournament in the history of tournaments.
Indiana. Yeah, I think the 03. If you go back and look at it,
Hall of Famers on that show.
Yeah. Hold on, let's bring it up because it's insane. Ted Petty,
Punk, AJ, Dragon,
Samoa
Joe.
The finals was insane.
AJ was AJ, Dragon, and Joe.
Yeah. Oh, it's not 03, it's 04.
04, okay.
Okay, yes. So the first round of the Ted Petty invitation, actually here, I'll bring it up on the screen so people can see it. Hold on here, check this. So the first round is Samoa Joe versus Roderick Strong, Nigel McGuinness against Claudio Castagnoli, Chris Sabin versus Rain Man, Danny Daniels and Todd Sexton, which is a weird one. AJ Styles and Jimmy Rave, Matt Sydal and Sal Renaro, Super Dragon and Eric Cannon, Petey Williams and BJ Whitmer, Chris Hero and Mike Quackenbush, Nate Webb and Hollow Wicked, CM Punk and Austin Aries, and Bryan Danielson and Alex Shelley. I mean, Jesus. And the finals, the semifinals, or the finals end up being a three-way. Joe, AJ, and Danielson is the finals. Come on.
Yeah. And I mean, even for guys who are already established and were going there, like, their shows helped maintain and create buzz for certain guys, and they don't get enough love. I mean, maybe for a retro review, we'll do IWA Mid-South show from an old.
We should do Ted Petty 2000.
I'm down with that. Yeah, looking at that, I'm like, holy shit, that's pretty incredible. But I mean,
amazing line. It's the best lineup in indie wrestling history.
Yeah, but I mean, for Ring of Honor, it's like, I mean, I respect what they, you know, for people that they put on the map and for the buzz that they help create, but it's just lopsided in how it's maintained. And again, and you guys know this too. Now, while IWA Mid-South was very instrumental in wrestling history, they also weren't seen by a lot of fucking people live and with tickets and even with the videos, like, because when you're in that community, it feels so much bigger than it is. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think that for, you know, Tony Khan, who's been in this community for a long time, I really don't know. I think that, and again, he's done a lot of business things right, but I feel like he's not able to see, like, in the landscape, how small this fucking thing is. Like, 800 fucking buys on a pay-per-view just recently. Like, this is not like the brand that you think that it is.
Right. I think you're right. I think there's something to that. And I think that when, in our private conversation with Nick, Mike, I think he's right too, in that Tony Khan is a big enough mark that he thinks that Ring of Honor is bigger than it really is. And I think that there's some truth to both sides of it there. That Tony thinks it's bigger than it is, and it's not as big as it is. And what wins out? And it'll be fascinating because Tony Khan has made what I thought were missteps along the way, and he's failed upwards. So who am I to criticize him? Because
exactly. I mean, I'm not even, like I told you, I won't call him I won't call him a mark of any kind anymore. We're just because, and first of all, the mark thing is just, it's an overused fucking word anyway. Like, you could point to anybody in the business and be like, why the fuck did you do this? Like, it kind of makes you look like a mark. And it's because deep down you kind of are. Like, everybody's here. Like, I mean, for the shit that we've done, for the amount of money that's been made, like, anybody on this call, and many people listen to the podcast, like, you could be called a fucking mark, okay? So I don't like throwing it around. But I mean, business-wise, he's been so good, it is hard to criticize, but it just, as a sign to me, like, when he's still like, I don't really have anything to announce on TV. That is like, because he's known for a little while. It's not just when he bought it. Like, it's not like he hasn't had the opportunity to talk to people and be like, and that's the kind of stuff that you should know going into the sale anyway. Like, what are my options if I acquire this and I want to put it on TV? Like, what's out there for me? What can I really do? And on this one, it's like, it's just weird that he hasn't announced anything yet. Like,
right? Rather than being proactive, he's being reactive.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, and he might be proactive, and maybe there's just not much out there because, again, Ring of Honor, they were owned by Sinclair, but they were trying to get on, like cable, not regular cable stations, not syndicated, and they could never get a deal. Like, they don't have that type of cachet in the TV industry. That's why when you and I were talking about HBO Max, and it's possible that they could, it's definitely possible if they're talking to HBO Max that they could get a Ring of Honor show. But I'm saying from HBO Max's perspective, like, why is what does live Ring of Honor mean?
Do for them.
Like, I had fucking,
at best,
I had Zack Snyder's Justice League, like, fucking on my shit last year. Like, I don't give a shit about fucking Jay Lethal, okay? Like, that shit just doesn't matter to me. But I mean, like, that's what I'm saying.
Who definitely doesn't give a shit about Jonathan Gresham? HBO Max executives.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, we had King Kong versus Godzilla last year. Like, you can take your 5-4 world champion and, kick rocks. But I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know where you go or who you go to, because from, streaming might be one thing, but even streaming, to keep it alive on streaming, I mean, you better be getting a hell of a rights fee. And I just don't know, like, I would think that AEW, the only way to make this work and make it worthwhile for people is AEW is going to do their pay-per-views on this streaming service. But I mean, that's something else entirely. But I mean, again, if you're paying for the cost of TV though, and it's not really adding to people that are going to subscribe or anything like that, or make your numbers look better, why do it?
Right.
I mean, I don't see. Yeah. It's just,
it'll be fascinating, and we'll be here to break it down every step of the way, as only we can.
And yes, that
leads us to the show that I think maybe had the worst spot of the entire weekend, and that was NXT on Saturday afternoon.
Lost.
It was just completely overrun because night one of WrestleMania was everyone was marking out for it. Right. It got lost in the shuffle completely. I watched the first match, the women's tag match. I thought it was really good. I love Toxic Attraction. I don't know what it is about them. I got a thing for Gigi Dolan. I don't know why. But they are really good. Dakota Kai, I can't stand that Dakota Kai is on my television. I don't believe anything that she does, but she was passable in this match. But it was good. But other than that, Like again, there was nothing that like jumped out. Like Braun Breaker won the title back. Okay, great. Like I don't think anybody's cared about that Dolph Ziggler stuff. The new direction of NXT is weird. I don't know that. I mean, it's maybe working in Nick Khan's eyes and what Vince McMahon and what Bruce want, but I'm not seeing anything as far as compelling storylines and things that are nothing about that pay-per-view was like, I gotta watch this. I gotta see this match. And NXT is generally on these takeovers and stuff have had matches where you're like, I do want to see that match. And there was nothing on this show that was like, I gotta see.
I didn't see the show, but that's probably good. What you're describing is probably good and not bad because the wrestling does not matter as much in WWE, and all these work rate indie guys that they had were going up there and not really succeeding with what they wanted anyway. Listen, they're still developmental no matter what anybody says. Like, that's just what they are. Mm-hmm. There needs to be more cohesion with whatever direction you're going to go in. There needs to be more cohesion with your developmental and your main roster. So, I mean, I'm glad Hunter came back to, shout out to Hunter who, listen, his health does not change the fact that he is still not in the top 100 of all time. But God bless the guy for coming back. And, I think it's funny too. People learn a fucking lesson from all this shit. And we talked about this, I think, privately in the thread, but don't believe everything you hear. This really might not be Vince trying to fuck over his son-in-law as much as like his son-in-law like almost died and seems to have refocused his priorities towards his family and like shit that matters and not pro wrestling. Like everybody keep that in mind because like everything that's happened along the way has been, oh, Vince is pissed about the ratings. Vince wants to stick it to Hunter, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no, it looks like Hunter is going to kind of move away from this shit and move into like, important things. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I mean, I watched very little, but I mean, they need to have that, more of that cohesion because guys were going there and it wasn't working. I mean, that's just the way it was.
Yeah.
and on that thought, the one thing I do want to talk about when we're talking about NXT is that this show was the last NXT show for Tommaso Ciampa, and he's going to the main roster. I have major reservations about his ability to connect on the main roster. I think this is a recipe for disaster for Tommaso Ciampa.
How long is this deal? How long is he? How long does he have left on his deal?
I don't know. I think he just re-signed when in the last year when a lot of these other guys re-signed. They love him. Like obviously Vince and Bruce and the powers that be, they like him. He's very small. And when you put him, if you have him stand next to Randy Orton, he looks incredibly tiny next to Randy Orton. And I think he's going to struggle. I hope not, because I like him. I think he's very talented. He's got great charisma. His facials are great. His wrestling is perfectly fine.
He should be the contest, just a smaller version of the game. The contest. He'll be small. He'll be small Hunter. That's the only thing I can really see. Listen, whatever the time left on his deal plus 6 months, let's say that's when he's the fucking TNT champion. Okay, because
what's his alternative?
yeah. I'm with you. Like look.
This could very well be like Hit Row, where they get to the main roster and after a couple of weeks they're just like, nope, pull the plug.
Yeah.
It's not a couple of weeks. It could be any time between now and a year and a half. This will be the event that sparks it. We just don't know it'll happen, but we'll say no longer than a year and a half. But as soon as Vince walks past him in catering, like that's when it's done. Like it's over. Like right there.
When Vince looks down at him, yeah.
And when Vince looks at Vince is gonna Vince is gonna be a dick about it too. He's gonna like run into him on purpose and sorry fella or some shit like that, little fella, some shit like that. But I mean, as soon as Vince notices that he's like 2.5 feet taller than him, like this whole fucking thing is over, man. It's done.
Does he change his name? His name is just like something very lame. Tom something.
Mainly because
Tommy Camp.
Tommy
Tommy Camp.
It's difficult. It is a different name to say,
What's
right?
his name? Change it.
They changed Pete Dunne's name, so
Yeah.
anything.
Pete Dunne. That is still the Butch. That's his name, right?
Yeah, that's Butch. With your guy Sheamus, your favorite wrestler, Sheamus.
All I know is together, when this little ensemble they have, they look like they eat out of garbage cans, man. That's exactly. They look like They look like the orphan in Dick Tracy. Like it's
discount. They're dark match Peaky Blinders, which is a shame.
I think that's what they're going for. I think they're going for it. Yeah. And that poor Ridge Holland guy. I don't know if it was his fault or what with Big E, but I don't know about that guy. And once you injure someone like that, you don't really.
That's a tough one to shake. That's a tough one to shake.
Very tough. So we'll see there. So that's it for NXT.
Undertaker fucked them over real bad too, because Undertaker's speech was so good from the night before that I think people gave a shit more about that and watching that hadn't seen it than NXT. So I mean, they were doubly fucked. Like nobody gave a shit about NXT this week.
Undertaker gave a fucking TED talk.
Yeah, I know. That's what somebody asked me how the Undertaker thing was before, because they hadn't seen it and they were coming to the house, and I was like, he was kind of like a motivational speaker. Like he was just kind of walking around and beeping and bopping and pointing to people and shit. It was so weird. It was.
We did have the weird headset on, right?
Yeah. It was like, why couldn't Undertaker hold a microphone? Like, what was so? It was so weird. It was very.
And obviously the most interesting thing is he the never say never thing at the end. He at least leaves the door cracked open in case he's feeling froggy, next year at WrestleMania or something. Or wants to come back for Royal Rumble or some shit.
No disrespect to The Undertaker. His speech was great, but say never, motherfucker. Don't you ever come back. I don't want to see it. Nobody does. Like, you might have had the worst match in WrestleMania history with Roman Reigns. Definitely the worst match, over 15 minutes. Like, please don't come back. Just, right? This was the perfect way to go out. And even coming back out, and there was fucking... there was 75,000 people cheering for him like he was having a match that night. Like they were into him. They loved him. That was goodbye. Walk off. Always remember that Shawn Michaels came back and remember what that was like. You were there. So you were there.
Yeah, Mark, you were there. You saw it.
Yes.
Do not do it. I don't care how much the Saudi king wants to pay you.
Yeah.
I don't care how much he wants to pay you. Don't take that money. Don't do it.
No.
So there you go. That leads us to WrestleMania Night 1. I'll be honest with you guys. I haven't had a chance to sit down and watch the entire.
Oh my God! What the fuck?
I know. I got wrestlinged out. I got distracted by my wife wanting to go to the casino, and I just never got to. I've watched all the highlights, all the things that people are talking about. I've seen the highlights through social media and people's reactions and whatnot. So I've seen all the necessary things. I didn't sit down and watch. So I'm gonna lean on you guys to give me what I need to know about this thing. Night 1, you guys, as I was sitting at the table playing Ultimate Texas.
We're Texas. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah, you guys were raving about it. So I was wrong, Mike. You were 100% right about Steve Austin. And we got what we all wanted.
Yeah.
I was just wrong about what we got. I wanted what we got. I just didn't think we were going to get it. But he was awesome.
And I'll say this on some of the private things we talked about on why I said I thought it would be okay and he would not embarrass himself were the two things that happened. Number one, he could have raped the mother of every male in that fucking building that night, and they still would have popped for him. Okay, like they would have been like, "Damn, yeah, why'd you do that? That was fucked up." But yeah, fucking Stone Cold. They still would have did that shit. Second of all, Kevin Owens deserves his flowers because he was tremendous. He did a vast majority of the physical work. His character work was so good. They were so good. he came out in knee braces that were bigger than, my fucking leg as an entirety. Okay. Like, so you knew that he was working. I mean, it was very obvious that he was not doing, punch, fall on my ass stunner. Like, it was like, okay, Steve's got on some fight. Steve's going to do some work in here. But from the moment they sat down, this was Roddy Piper-esque as far as the interview and where he was at with it, because they had them eating out of their hands, both of them, and it was Austin's perfect facial expressions and responses too. Like, Kevin Owens with the, actually I kind of tricked you, and it's like he's dragging it out, and the fans, they're like waiting for him to say it because they know that it's coming, and then they're waiting for Austin, they know that it's coming. And it was just magic. And I don't want to overdo the match itself because it wasn't a great match. Because, I mean, Austin, he's working on, but you could tell the more that Austin did, he was working off Russ, though, too.
Like, for sure. Yeah, he got better as it got. You saw him get warm. You're like, oh, here he goes.
Yeah, and I think that the stomps in the corner really looked bad, too, because those fucking braces, braces were fucking
You could tell he couldn't quite get the rhythm that he used to have down with the dun dun, like the kicking and stuff like that. It got to it as the more he did it, and then you're like, oh, he's figuring it out again. And then he needed to get the oil going and get the car needed to start and get running for a while before it could start driving better.
Yeah,
he had braces there. His braces rivaled Walter Jr. on Breaking Bad. That's how bad his fucking braces were. They were ridiculous. But he worked it off. And, hey, I told you that too. Steve Austin, it wasn't even an option to embarrass himself because that motherfucker was not going to let it happen. He took a fucking suplex on the floor, okay? He was 100% going out there to work and to have the best match possible.
He took a fucking stunner from Kevin Owens.
Yeah. Yeah. He was tremendous. I enjoyed that part. I mean, you can't beat that from
could you imagine had they not made that the main event of night one? There was based on they had to. I mean, could any of them have followed that? Which you guys kind of were talking about, saying night two really had its work cut out for him because night one, the matches preceding the Austin match were also very good by your guys' but most people's opinions.
Oh no, night one. Listen, night one was, if you're kind of counting, them as two separate shows, which you kind of have to in a way, because I mean you can't really do the one there. Look, it's fucking 8 hours, man. That's not,
it's not one show. You're right. Yeah.
But if you're counting it as one show, night one is probably the best WrestleMania to me since X7, since the Austin Rock and the one in Houston. Yeah, this was tremendous. Besides that, the Cody Rhodes debut was fucking perfect. I had one of the best experiences of my weekend because I got to reconnect with a friend I have not seen in a long time. And I love watching wrestling with him because he is not a social media wrestling fan.
Okay.
So it's like, my eyes are all big and I'm just, what do you like? Just talk to me. But the Cody Rhodes thing, and he knows, he will not watch AEW. He doesn't hate him, but he's just a WWE fan. That's what he likes. And so he kind of knows about Cody Rhodes. But when he came back, he was like, he watched it and he was like a fucking Marvel character. And I was like, he does. It was so perfect. And it was a really good match. Bianca and go ahead.
To work on Cody real quick, I thought it was interesting that he didn't reinvent himself from AEW, Cody, to the point where he was even used the music that he used in AEW. I thought that was very interesting that they were like, we want that Cody. We don't want to reinvent Cody Rhodes. We want this guy that you've become since you left here. We want that guy.
That guy's a star.
Yeah. I thought that was
and
very
you know what?
His
You know what
follow-up
that
promo
means,
on
too?
Raw was awesome too, by the way.
Yeah.
You know what this means too is that a lot of anything that you've heard out there about Insane Money is probably true, because that tells you this was a Cody thing, and he said so much in an interview after. He wanted to come in as that, and he said that to them, and Vince was like, yeah, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But the fact that they're willing to just say, yes, sir, whatever you want, sir. Like, I'm sure they really wanted to stick it to Tony Khan and AEW, and not like not like a personal way, but just that, like, hey, we have to show everybody that we can, that we like, and they're going to do the same thing when MJF goes there in January 2024, which is 100% happening. But they still need to show, like, the rest of the world, we can get anybody that we want. We just don't want all these other guys, but we want Cody, so we're going to take Cody, and they did. But it was perfect. And Becky and Bianca Belair was another really good fucking match. There was Corbin and fucking Happy Corbin and Drew McIntyre. Like, nothing Happy Corbin in is going to be a home run, but this was like a stand-up double, which is about as good as it gets.
And this match stands out because, if I'm not mistaken, Drew McIntyre is the first person to ever kick out of the end of days, or whatever he calls it, his fucking finish.
Yeah.
That they in an era where they don't protect anybody's finisher, they protected the shit out of Baron Corbin's finisher for a long fucking time.
Yeah, they did.
Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair kind of got lost in the shuffle of this show. And it is an interesting booking decision. And I wonder, is it because Charlotte Flair won that the match kind of didn't get the attention? And plus, obviously overshadowed completely by Steve Austin.
Right.
But still, like, ESPN, they talked about it, but it didn't have that same, like, I don't know, that buzz. And I don't know. I didn't watch the match, so I'm going to rely on you guys. Was Ronda Rousey just not? Was she still rusty? Was the match just okay? What happened there, in your guys' opinion, that match didn't really jump off the page?
It was just okay. I just think it was too close to the Austin thing, and like it was fine, and maybe just she didn't win, so there wasn't the happy hey finish that Ronda would get. But I don't think she's not as over as Bianca and Becky is either. So I think they got the better women's reactions, and neither is Charlotte, for quite frankly. So I mean, I think Ronda being the bigger star overall outside of WWE is why that match went second of the two girls matches, but they if there was all the energy used for the women's match, it was used up in the first one.
They put both women's matches on the same night. I just don't understand why they did that. That it didn't make sense when they did it, or when they announced it, and in execution, it hurt one of the matches.
The placement was horrible. I thought the match was better than the reaction, because they were very flat. The placement was horrible. They had Becky and Bianca, which just, I mean, everything about that match, that's another one too. The video leading up to it was tremendous. Yeah. The entrances were great, tremendous. The match itself was tremendous. Like, when it was funny, because, like, I mean, we talk about that. We don't really watch a lot of the weekly TV. But when you watch just the angles and the promos and the video, it's like, damn,
they're still second to none.
WWE kills it.
You're like, WWE booking's pretty good. Holy shit. Like, what else? Like, damn,
package form, their booking kicks ass. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like we talk about. It's 5 hours of content. It's just too much. But when you can isolate, the BS out of it and just focus on the good stuff. But it was really good. But everything about that was so good. The entrances were tremendous. I mean, like, I can't say that enough. I mean, like, this is like the best of WWE production. Like, this is the Broadway shit that they talk about. Like, everything, the big spectacle. And then they had the really good match too. Then they had Cody after that, and the crowd. I mean, Cody probably got the second biggest pop behind Steve Austin on the show. So, then they bring out Ronda, and it's kind of like, damn, we just saw a women's match, and it was pretty fucking good. It's a lot better than this, actually. So we're just gonna kind of sit here and wait for Steve Austin to come out. It was a good place.
He's next. Yeah.
Yeah, they did him no favors.
Yeah, that you're right there. I think from putting it on night one to where they put it on night one, that match was set up to be lost in the shuffle, no matter what was going to happen. That leads us to night two, which had a big act to follow, and there were some. We sat here last week, and
we called it.
Yeah, we did. One thing we called that we missed on, or at least from the reaction I'm reading from social media.
Yep, I know what you're gonna say. Yeah,
Johnny Knoxville and Sami Zayn was
people loved it.
People loved the shit.
Loved it.
Like 15 minutes. And we said if that went longer than 30 seconds, it was going to be a disaster. But from what I understand, everyone said it's maybe the best comedy match that's ever been done, especially on WWE television.
They way had the crowd into the match. It was insane. That match way overachieved. And I give everybody credit, everybody involved, to all the Jackass guys that got involved in that. I mean, it was better than it had any right to be. I'll definitely.
I was shocked at the reaction. I was like, oh, okay. Well, I guess they're into it. So.
And then that they sustained it. Yeah, like it kept going. It was like. And they would actually get louder for certain things. It was like, oh shit, it's Wee Man, yeah. And I'm like, damn, really? Like,
okay.
Like 9 minutes into this thing.
Good, man. I think people sleep on Sami Zayn, but that dude is super fucking talented. And I think it's great that he had that moment to show that he could take Jackass and make a WrestleMania moment out of Jackass. Like
my wish for him is that Mick Foley could work, because the fake Cactus Jack versus real Cactus Jack feud was so good, because he looks so much like Cactus Jack with that fucking beard, like dead on. Like every time I see Sami Zayn, I cannot help but think of Cactus Jack. That's what he looks like. It's so scary.
Omos and Bobby Lashley. I thought that was interesting that they had Lashley win. I don't know that. The match itself, I mean, what could they have possibly done? Could it almost is so limited. I
think didn't I say that? Was that on the show last week where I said that? That I think that this might be where he gets beat because they're just, you could see it too. Like, and you could see why. You could see why in the match. It's like, dude, you are big, and that's it, man. Like, that's it.
The following night, they have MVP turn on Bobby Lashley and join Omos, and I don't know that helps him. Like, yes, it gives him a voice, it gives him a manager, but a babyface Bobby Lashley, sounds like a terrible idea.
It's weird.
And B, this Omos guy is just so clearly not ready for what's being handed to him. It's just painfully obvious.
I don't know how much they're gonna. I mean, that's the thing, is that I think. It's weird. The fans, especially on social media and online, I mean, it seems like we kind of value MVP more than they do, because they've already broken this up and put it back together. Like, this might just be a turn to give Lashley something to do more than, give almost like a strong push. Because, look, if you're getting beat at Mania, I mean, are they really, I mean, how far right now? I mean, it doesn't look like, I don't know.
If they didn't have him win, they know how limited he is too.
Yeah, I mean, he looks so, how can you not see it? I mean, Jesus, it doesn't really take like a professional wrestling savant to like figure out this guy can't go, it's like, I mean, he's just not good.
I did also read that somebody said that Logan Paul looked better than Dominic Mysterio.
Oh, there is zero question that Logan Paul is better than Dominic Mysterio. And I will say, you didn't see it. Joe, you saw it. Where does he get ranked in first time matches in history? Because
that's really good. He's he's such a
Bad Bunny is the standard, right? I think Bad Bunny is the standard.
I think Ronda's still the first. I mean, she's a combat sports athlete, so maybe she has an advantage. I mean, she has the best first match, that tag match at WrestleMania. But Bad Bunny was really good too. I think Bad Bunny was just more
athletic.
Yeah, but Logan Paul looks like a professional wrestler.
Logan Paul might have had the best pro wrestler, and I think Joe knows what I'm talking about. The best pro wrestler performance of anybody.
Yeah. You could tell he looked like he belonged the second he got in there.
Yes, he did. He did. So
like, whoa, that guy's supposed to be there. Like he could if this would be where he could make the most money, he should be
right. If he could make more money than boxing, he would be. He'd be signing a contract. They'd have already announced he signed a contract.
It's to their advantage to keep in contact with him because he's popular. So keep bringing him back.
And you could see like he actually gets more confident and better as the match goes on. Like from beginning to end, like you could actually see he's starting to get more comfortable because he started feeling himself. He looks at the crowd and says, "Watch this," and picks up Ray and gives him the Three Amigos to like the most deafening heat of all time. And then did a nip up and just smiled, like had this like half smile on his face. And the crowd just, they hate him.
He's a natural heel.
He was a perfect heel. It was a really good pro wrestling performance. I almost forgot about that, man.
Came out, that necklace he had, there's a Pokemon card that's worth like $10,000 or some crazy shit.
He almost does Miz's act better than Miz in one match.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
He's doing the same thing. Hollywood guy.
Yeah, you're right.
He does Miz's, he's done Miz's career in one match.
Well, the thing that helps him though is that he's more. He comes across as more of an athlete when he does it than Miz.
Sure.
Like he's he's like the jock football player, like that when he does it because of that. Like Miz doesn't have that athletic.
I bet Vince was drooling backstage. Was like, he looked at Nick Khan and went, "How much money do we have? Do we have enough that we could pay?"
He'll be back. I mean, when the Miz, he'll have a match with Miz at something at SummerSlam or whatever.
They got to set that up.
Next year. I mean, he'll be at WrestleMania next year. It's in LA. I mean, for sure.
Yeah, done deal. Yeah, for sure. Anything else on that show before we get to the main event? Anything else on the undercard of that show that stuck out?
No.
The tag match was okay. The one with Riddle and Orton and the Alpha Academy.
Yeah.
That was fine. Yeah. That was a good opener. I mean,
that leads to Gable Stevenson.
Yeah.
I saw that. I'm very skeptical of Gable Stevenson. Like, physically, is that man capable of being a really good professional wrestler? Yes. But I saw the video and then I read some comments and some reactions of people, and I tend to agree. He looks bored.
Yeah. He did have kind of a deer in headlights look a little bit.
He looked very bored in that, like, yes, I'm doing this, and yes, I'm capable of suplexing this guy, and yes, I know that I'm supposed to then get up and look at the crowd, but like, I'm not excited to be here. I'm just here because they really wanted me to be here.
But he's man. It could just be nerves though too. Like this is like, I mean, it's one thing to go out there and compete because you're just focused like on the competition itself and lost in that. But like, it's another thing to like go out there and perform for the audience. Like, I mean, this is, he
doesn't have any performance experience yet. He just, I mean, he's a really, really, really good amateur wrestler, and he's got all the tools that Kurt Angle had, and maybe more as far as like actual physical ability. But where Kurt Angle figured out is, he went from the guy who said, "Well, I can't lose." He told the famous story of telling Bruce Prichard, "I can't lose because I'm the best wrestler there is," to him figuring out and being humbled, like, "Oh, this is a business and this is a gimmick and this is a work." I think Stevenson just doesn't know that yet, or he hasn't figured that out. He could in time. He's super. I mean, he's green as grass. He's got to figure out that out, and that's why he's got to go to training. I think they need to pump the brakes on him being like, he's going to be a superstar tomorrow. Like,
he's already on the main roster.
Chill.
Right? Yeah. Like he needs to go to the Performance Center
for a while.
For a year.
Yeah. He will. I think that's just a tease.
Yeah, man, I hope so. Because
it's your big. You only get this stage once a year. So, I mean, they just want to put him on that real quick. And then I don't think he's going to be made. Yeah.
Yeah. main event on a weekend where it was very easy for this match to get lost because of all the things that we talked about going into it, which was this is like the 7th time these guys have had a main event match on pay-per-view. There was very little drama as to who was going to win, and they were at the end of 8 hours of WWE wrestling. And at the end of the day, that match is a throwaway, another Brock Lesnar Roman Reigns match that didn't seem to have any buzz. Like, oh man, there was this one spot, and you should have seen the finish was amazing. It was a foregone conclusion, and it just kind of felt like here's the end that we all expected. There you go.
It felt like a big fight. I mean, I was excited when it was starting. I was like, this feels like a heavyweight like boxing match fight coming up. I mean, those guys are talented, obviously, but they're limited in what they can do as far as like it wasn't going to be a New Japan. It never got into that next gear. Like it always felt like it was fine. Like it was a fine professional wrestling match, but like it never got into that like, holy shit, we're going to start doing false finishes and like, I don't know who's going to win. It could go either way. It never got that right. It ended. I was like, oh, okay. I guess that's it.
Yeah. And now that leads us, and we'll finish so we can get out of here. But we'll finish on this note. We have to now look forward to, we know now they combined the titles, or at least on some level unified the titles under Roman Reigns, which means he's going to appear on both shows. He appeared on Raw and cut a very brief promo saying, I'll see you guys on SmackDown, which I thought was kind of brilliant. Michael, I'm going to turn this to you because this is your thing. You put yourself in the USA and Fox executive's shoes for a second. And like, how does this play out? Like, where I don't see, they gotta have him drop one of those belts and start over.
Man, I feel like I'd be so pissed if I was Fox, because like you're putting our champion on their TV, and we're already driving everything to their streaming service for the pay-per-views, like, and we're paying you more money than them and giving them a bigger platform. Like, woo! I don't know. I mean, however they feel, who knows? But I mean, I just know that I would not be okay with this at all. Like, it's like, why are we helping prop up USA? I mean, to a degree, because that's what's happening.
Everybody was expecting something to happen, and maybe the deal was The Rock's going to show up on Friday. Like maybe they were like, oh, The Rock's going to come out and challenge him or whatever. That's going to be. Maybe they're like, all right, well, he's going to be on Raw for a while, but we'll put The Rock on.
Yeah, we'll give you The Rock. Huh? Yeah. So it'll be interesting. We'll definitely break it down here in the coming weeks because they're going to have to do something. For all the reasons that you've said, Michael, I just don't see how they keep Roman Reigns with both belts or make it one belt and not have two belts for the two shows.
I could see Cody being the guy who ends it at some point or beats it.
Really?
Oh, for sure. I think that's where they're going with it. I think
he got the second biggest pop on the show next to Steve Austin. Like, and I 100% get that crowd would be like that though too. But even the Raw crowd after, like, and listen, man,
amazing promo on the Raw after. I was really impressed.
You have a natural, like, he's got a bloodline too. I mean, that's the battles of bloodlines. There's your headline. If they can wait, I don't think it could be. I don't think they'll wait till WrestleMania. I think they're too they get too jumpy. But like SummerSlam, I could see that being in a stadium. That could be the main event for sure.
And they have to do something. If the goal is to get to him and Rock, that's fine. But he can't be champion for like a year. Like that can't happen on both brands. Like they need to
lose somebody, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, he's beaten almost everybody there is now. He finally got it over Brock.
He's literally beaten every Universal Champion that's ever
existed. Yeah, you need some kind of transitional champion or title reign or something just to break it up at some point. And yeah, like looking at that roster, I think Cody's a solid chance to do that.
Yep.
That you're right. It just seems shocking when you hear it, right? Like you're just like that. Really? But you're right. Like when you add it all up and you talk
it's
about
the only fresh matchup they have now. Like that's it. Like that's the only like ooh like that. You know, like,
if Bobby Lashley beat him. No.
Yeah.
Brock Lesnar's clearly moving on.
Remember when Triple H said McIntyre and Roman Reigns would be as big as what
Hogan and Flair. Yes.
Fucking Christ.
Jesus.
I think there's a chance too that Kevin Owens will end up being a good babyface. I think he's gonna
taking the momentum off this.
Absolutely, I can see that happening because he's gonna kind of be known as that guy now too. Like this is this puts him on another level. And
him and Sami Zayn were the low key MVPs of the weekend for them.
Yep,
for both nights.
Yep, on each night. Yeah, yeah.
That's why they re-signed those guys for fucking $5 million a year.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is that all these AEW guys are like, oh my god, I can't believe that he re-signed, and it's like he just headlined WrestleMania with Steve Austin,
right? And the other guy had a fucking match with Jackass. Like, you're right, and that probably isn't by coincidence. That goes to Vince McMahon saying, and that's another shot across the bow, right? Which was like, the guys that we do want, look what we're going to do. Adam Cole, we wanted you to be fucking a manager. Meanwhile, Kevin Owens is wrestling Steve Austin at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
It shows that, hey, if we want you, we'll do something.
This whole show, night 1 and night 2, was just a good reminder to everybody that nobody can be WWE. No one's on that level, print-wise and all that stuff, bringing everything together. It was a night where everything that they, and there's times where they're kind of full of shit, but everything they say they are tonight or on those 2 nights, that's what they were. I mean, they were, just this incredibly produced thing. The fans were, and don't ever let anyone tell you that oh, domes, it's hard to get a good crowd reaction in a dome because man, it was so hot for so many different things. It was really awesome. Just great.
Yeah, that was good. That was a good crowd. Both nights, good crowd. Yeah,
absolutely.
And on that note, we've talked for an hour and 22 minutes about WrestleMania weekend. It sounds to me like we've decided we're going to do Ted Petty 2004 for our retro review. We just got to find it. I don't know where we're going to find it, but I'm sure, Michael, you've got some corner of the internet where you can find it.
Yes, I can have that very soon. Yes,
excellent. So we will be back next Thursday night. We did this one a little early this week, but next Thursday night we will be back, and we will see you then. Until next time, this has been the Now and Then Wrestling Podcast. I'm Ben Jordan from Michael Vee and Joe Tippett. We'll